I used to chase the ROI all the time, return on investment. And over the course of time, that has evolved into what I call return on life.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Dyck here on the Return on Life podcast. Not just a podcast, but a podcast about getting a return on life. So often we chase the ROI, which we all know what that is, but what about the ROL? It could be return on luck, but I've coined it return on life. And so happy to have an amazing guest today with me, Randall Miles, which if you've been in the investment world, you've probably heard about Randall Miles. If you've been in the movie business or watching something like Billions, you've probably recognized that Randall Miles is in the credits. So I've got an amazing guest with me, and Randall and I met years ago through a company that we're connected with, eXp Realty. Randall is a board member of EXPI, and so I've just really appreciate Randall and gotten to know him over the years, him and Karen, his wife, Karen. And so today we've got Randall with us. Welcome, Randall.
Hey, thanks, Randy. It's a pleasure to be here.
So maybe tell me a little bit about what makes Randall tick on a day-to-day basis, just to get things started, and how does return on life fit maybe into that?
You know, if I had the answer to what makes me or anybody else tick on a daily basis, then I would have solved a lot of other problems by now. Randy, I consider myself extraordinarily fortunate. I have been in the business world a long time. I've done a lot of different things in a lot of different places that has given me a breadth and depth of experience to leverage to help others, whether it's mentoring CEOs or mentoring young people or sitting on boards through transition, and the ability to draw on that experience and give back. I don't do it for free, so I don't want to be totally disingenuous here, right? But to give back and to help others in that process is what drives me, and that what makes me tick. That's fun. And sometimes the more difficult situation, the more fun it is. That's what I like to do. So that's the result of having spent a lot of years on Wall Street with several firms running investment banking groups, having been CEO of a couple of multi-billion-dollar global public and private equity-backed firms. And most of what I do today is sit on the boards of public and private equity-backed firms. I still have my own firm, which is transaction and strategic advisory on a global stealth basis. And, so those are the things that are fun. That's what I enjoy doing.
Well, you've got so many opportunities, I'm sure, that come to you at this point with all the success that you've had. How do you decide whether you should jump through that next window of opportunity, that next window of connecting, being involved in something? What is your test that you would put out to yourself or ask yourself?
It's a great question because it's one that I'm kind of often asked, given the fact that a lot of stuff lands on my desk. And I've kind of developed a view of that I do share with others in the context of trying to, as you put it, a return on life, right? What is your return, whether it's return on investment, whether it's return on life, whatever your lifelong objective is or you're trying to achieve, you need to have some criteria associated with that. And you need to have the discipline to say no, so that you don't overextend yourself, and therefore you aren't being genuine to whomever you're working with, right? So for me, I think it's relatively simple. The opportunity has to have legs, whatever that is. It has to mean something, whatever that may be in different contexts, right? Whether it's a commercial opportunity or something else. I have to like and respect and believe in the people that are associated with it. I have to feel that the people associated with it are generally headed the same direction. Call it in the same boat, rowing in the same direction, recognizing we're all going to get splashed and the like, and have to ford a river too. Can we argue constructively for the purpose of trying to get it right? And the litmus test I apply to everything is trying to do the right thing the right way for the right reason, and want to know that we can have fun doing it. And ideally, there's an opportunity to deliver real value, to make a difference. That's a big part of it, and to earn something while doing it.
You say fun. Now, is it about the experience is it about the money opportunity, or do they have to both be involved for you to say, I'm going to dive into this?
Well, knock on wood, I've been fortunate enough in life that money doesn't have to drive it. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to work. I'm fortunate to be very well situated, because I've had some great experiences that have paid quite well. So the driver in terms of what fun is, can I make a difference? Do I enjoy associating with the people connected with it? Can I help deliver real value, whether that's mentoring a CEO or helping a board grow or helping drive change in a company? Fun for me is being able to make a difference and drive value creation, whatever that might be. That might be something that's very charitable, in which there's no money attached to it, or something that's potentially quite enriching, and whatever it is. It depends on the circumstance.
Let's take it away from finance, from money, because you became an actor quite late in life. How did that come about? You shared a little bit about that story, but I think our listeners would really like to hear, how did Randall Miles end up on Billions?
Quite accidentally. In fact, it's kind of a funny story, and frankly, there are occasions when I choose not to tell it around people who have worked a lifetime honing their craft, taking acting lessons and training and all the stuff that they've done and auditioning, because for me, it came quite accidentally. Several years ago, when I decided to change a few things up, meaning give up the day-to-day operation of my firm, retain the chair role, but it freed up a little bit of my time. And my wife said to me, "So it's not like you're going to play golf every day. What are you going to do with your time?" And I jokingly said, "Well, maybe I'll try politics or acting," which was just an off-the-cuff joking comment. And one of my sons laughed so hard he damn near fell out of his chair, and made me a bet that I couldn't act. And through a couple of connections, managed to get on screen simply for the purpose of winning the bet, thinking I would never do it again. Had never had the desire, had never had the training. And one thing led to another. I got a call to do this, and I got a call to do that, and I got a call to do something else. And along the way, and I think I was working on the set of the Sinner with Jessica Biel and Bill Pullman, and the assistant director said, "You'd be great for a show like Billions. Can I introduce you to the guys?" So that turned into a combination of things that include an on-camera role, some technical consulting, some stand-in work, and other consultations. So that's kind of how Billions came about. But there have been commercials, there have been movies, there have been other television shows. And I mean, don't blink, because you might miss me in any one of those. But it's been fun and a great education to be a part of it. And it's now led to getting involved in production, where I have a couple of executive producer credits to my name, and in the midst of working on another project as we speak as a executive producer.
Very cool. And I think you're one of the coolest cats I know. So I really appreciate that.
You can't know too many people, Randy.
Well, along the way, in throwing some of those things out, did you not doubt, like, were you not doubting that? And I have a thought on doubt. So doubt to me is not something I shouldn't do, but it's just a speed bump or a reason for me to pause, but it's still something very positive I need to keep moving forward with. And a lot of people have doubt that comes into their life, their mind, and they just shut it down because they go, "Well, I'm doubting this," so they just shut down. But I think it's just a way that God says, "Hey, I want you to recognize this. I want you to slow down, just so you don't either miss something or you don't miss the experience." But in saying, "Hey, I'm going to try acting," did you ever doubt yourself? And what was that like, jumping onto that first set?
Did I doubt myself? I think the direct answer is no. I think, having reached a point in life where I'm otherwise well cared for, it's a great opportunity to try something new, keep things fresh. And I know one guy that went back to get an architectural degree in his 50s. I know other people have done similar things. And I think, one of the great fortunes in life is to be able to get to a point where you can try something new that you haven't done before.
Mhm.
That might be a passion, or in my case was quite accidental. And it's, hey, well, that sounds kind of fun. It'd be kind of nice to learn about something I have no experience with. So in that context, there wasn't any doubt. And I will tell you, one of the things I often tell groups of young people if I'm speaking in a university or something like that, and sometimes you'll hear others begrudge the luck that some have had along the way. And let's face it, luck and star alignment does play a role in our lives. But the truth of it is, my belief has always been that you need to have some kind of, I won't call it a plan, but some kind of a vision, right? And often life doesn't necessarily work out the way we want it to or might have hoped. But if you don't have something that's call it a vision or something you'd really like to do or
Mhm.
something you'd really like to pursue, it does cause you from time to time to miss, to go back to what you said a moment ago, opportunities that we're sometimes presented with. So my own view is if you're kind of open to the world around you, life presents you with opportunities along the way. Sometimes life circumstance doesn't allow you to take advantage of those, whether you've got family commitments or you can't afford to drop everything to try something new that half the pay or no pay or whatever else it might be, right? um, but if you've never thought about kind of where you want to go, sometimes those things show up and go right past you and you never notice. And the pause then, or the doubt about what I should do, if you've recognized what it is you'd like to accomplish in life and you're presented with an opportunity, you have an opportunity to think about it in the context of, that doubt. Is this the right time? Is this right for my family? Is this right for my circumstance? Or is this something that's a great jumping off point that I'm at a place and a time where I can afford to take the risk that comes along with doing that? Um, so I think that's a bigger answer to your question as it related specifically to the acting, because for me that was it was easy. I mean, in the context of I could do it and fail and it wouldn't matter, right? It would still be good cocktail party fodder, right? Um, and what I found was acting. We're all salespeople in one way or another, right? In most of the jobs that we do. So
Every moment is a sales moment.
and you're an actor, you work with customers, you work with vendors, you work with other things. Sometimes you've got to put on a persona where you're a little ticked off about something, or you've got to get through a tough day and still present a smile and a happy face. So we're all actors. And the distinction then I would say is your comfort doing that in front of people who are scrutinizing you, and with cameras stuck in your face. But having been an athlete growing up and into college, if you can stand on a free throw line with people yelling and screaming and not worry about it, or stand on a golf tee and people are lining the fairways and tune all of that stuff out, then you can be in front of a camera and act. But I tell you, I don't want to oversimplify it, because again, if you blink, you'll miss me. There are people who are extraordinary actors who have done an extraordinary amount of training to be really good at their craft. And I'm fortunate to have worked with some of those people and to see what real acting is. I mean, for me, Randy, it's doctor, lawyer, judge, politician, banker, right? I don't really have to act. I'm an old guy, still has hair. Not many people have seen my face in that context. So I can be on camera a few minutes, utter a couple of lines, and it's all fine and well. The people who really do it and really train for it are quite accomplished. So I don't want to be frivolous with respect to my own experiences. It's been great fun, and I've met lots of great people. But like I said, there are people who are really good at it and deserve the accolades they get.
Yeah, so true. I often say that our day-to-day life is just improv. We're just acting, and we're just on a stage that's filled with improv. And the
Yep.
better that we can handle that improv, the better we'll do in life, whether it be sales or even in our personal life. So well shared there. Crucible moments. I mean, we all have these crazy crucible moments, and some of them probably are painful. I have some
Yep.
painful crucible moments that really shaped and formed who I am today. Would never give them up
Mm-hmm.
today. In the moment, I was going, why me? Oh, why me? But any of them that would come to the surface for you that would kind of lead us to hearing a little bit about your story and what shaped and formed you.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point, because we all are a product of our experiences, and as you point out, some of them are painful,
Mhm.
but we wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't have the life experience we had if we hadn't learned how to get through some of those things. One of the things that I think from a career standpoint was really meaningful for me, and I was a young guy who was working for the first Boston corporation before it became Credit Suisse. And we were in the midst of preparing a very large presentation to a group of about 100 bank CEOs. And I'm a junior guy. I'm a vice president. So I'm doing the grunt work. And so day of presentation
Randall doing
comes,
grunt work.
and the day of presentation comes, and in a car, and pull up in front of my boss's house to pick him up. We're on the way to the airport, and he walks out in his bathrobe and is just heaving in the driveway. I mean, he is beyond sick. He looks horrible. He smells horrible. I mean, it's bad. And says, I can't do this. We can't cancel it. He hands me a folder and said, you've done the work. Good luck. Turns around, walks back in the house.
Hmm.
And so I'm kind of, dumbstruck for a moment, trying to, it's the fight or flight kind of a thing. And flight is sounding pretty good right now. So I'm in the car going to the airport, and I haven't told my other colleague yet. And this is in the days before cell phones. And I get to the airport and I tell her, and she's in tears. And the practical effect is we both think we're going to get fired over this whole thing. And that was probably the very real prospect. And I'm on the flight on the way up, and I thought, look, I know more about what I need to talk about than anybody else in the room, because I prepared all this stuff, and it's a relatively new thing, which is why all these guys are there. And I said, look, I'm getting fired anyway, so I might as well just own this. And I've got to go in with confidence and own it and do it. So I get there and mentioned it to the guy who had organized this conference, and he immediately left. He left the hotel ballroom where we were having this thing, walked out of the building. I don't know whether he went home, went to his office, but he wanted no part of being there, because you've got this, greenhorn young guy who's now going to address, a lot of recognizable names. And so I got up there and I thought, I'm just going to own this. And I did it, and, spoke for 45 minutes or so, and took about 20 minutes worth of questions, and stayed as long as anybody had anything to talk about. We ended up doing a lot of business as a result of it, and got a nice promotion and a nice bonus and all that kind of stuff that went along with it. And the lesson there for many, and for me, and what I've tried to impart for others, and what I've tried to impart to my kids, and my oldest son has a very good example of it, is, we're all presented with all kinds of things that are less than perfect circumstances, right? We can't orchestrate that. But you have to own whatever the circumstance is, do the very best you can do. If you're prepared, it makes a hell of a lot of difference. And it's okay to say, I don't know. If you truly don't know something, you don't have to fudge it, right? But at the end of the day, you need to own it. And there've been a couple of other places along the way that I could relate to in a very similar way, where it was I just had to own what it was, good, bad, or indifferent, and figure out what the right path was. For me, it was enormous confidence builder, enormous launching pad.
When I think of word confidence, I think the true definition of confidence for me, anyways, is fear coupled with courage. Because we move forward with confidence, but without a healthy dose of fear, because fear drives you to be better. At least it drives me to be better, motivates me. It's my friend if I embrace it. And then, of course, to be courageous, it's like a muscle just kind of always working. That to me is the definition of confidence in the truest state. I don't know if you see it that way or not, but
well, the good news as you get older, and you'll appreciate it when you get to be my age, Randy. As you get older, I mean, the fear thing plays less of a role, because you've had enough life experiences that it's less about fear in the sense that you're not worried about failing.
Yeah.
You're not worried about looking like an idiot in front of a crowd or whatever else it might be, right? But you've got something that you can draw upon, that is in some way analogous,
Yeah.
that tamps down whatever you might be nervous about or whatever the doubt might be, and then you own it, right? For better or for worse, you own it. Then it doesn't always work out the way you'd like it to, right? But it's important. I mean, it's the same reason the sports analogy, right? I mean, before kickoff and you've got butterflies in your stomach, that's a good thing, right?
Yes.
It makes you focused. It makes you better able to deliver your very best.
Excellent, excellent response. You talk about, time has a way of changing you as far as, today fear far less. What about leadership? How has leadership changed from those early days in Seattle to moving across the country to New York and where you're at today? How is leadership, or your definition of leadership, or how you've changed your leadership style and skill over the years?
I think I love that question, asked of anybody, right? Because people's impression of leadership, or their ability to be leaders, or their confidence as leaders, or more importantly, how other people perceive you as a leader, is pretty important. And we've all done like the 360 reviews, and it's interesting to see what qualities other people see in you, versus suggestions for improvement for one way to describe it. But for me, I think it's clear, and it's the way I've run organizations. It's the way I've seen the best organizations run. One of the biggest challenges for any leader, whether you are running a large company, a small company, a group of Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, or pick something, it really doesn't much matter. But I'll talk about it in commercial terms. The degree to which the challenge for any leader in this context is trying to get people to act like owners, employees to act like owners. And some would be surprised when I suggest that it isn't about whether or not they are actually physical owners or not, meaning stockholders, or there's an ESOP or whatever else it might be. But I think it's about clarity of purpose, and I think it's about transparency in the sense that people understand at every level how what they do every day contributes to the success of the organization. And to the extent that you can convey that in terms that people understand, in ways that is continually reinforced, and that people are encouraged not just to contribute in the context of higher production levels, but to contribute in the context of challenging the organization to do better. I like the management teams and the boards I've formed, for example. I formed for the specific purpose of avoiding violent agreement and wanting to have constructive debate around the right course of action. It's okay if we don't all agree. And sometimes as a leader, you have to unilaterally just make a decision. Popular, unpopular, doesn't make a difference. It just has to be done. But the degree to which we can constructively debate, I think, makes for better organizations. I think makes for more effective leadership. I think allows leaders to groom others to become better leaders, to go off and do other things and lead those organizations. So that's, for me, that's a big part of leadership.
Wow, profound. That is one of the best definitions of leadership I've heard in a long time. So, thank you so much for sharing that. Listeners, rewind that. You want to hear that again. And I think the piece that was so important, I think, for us is healthy debate. If we can have healthy debate, not only in our boardrooms, but in society, how different would this world look? Instead of you against I, or us against you, just have healthy debate and understand each other. Really appreciate that.
If I can interject there, because I think that's a great statement, Randy. I mean, and I'll use Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill as examples, who couldn't be more opposite from a political perspective, but still found time to sit around with a beer and talk about those differences and figure out solutions that they could craft that didn't mean that there was an obvious winner. They might have both been losers, right? But the people were winners. And I think where we are in society currently is it's all or none. I win, I stomp on your neck, and there's no sense of trying to get things done for the people. Nothing drives me more nuts than a politician of either party saying, well, the American people want. Well, the
Hmm.
American people are pretty bitterly divided on just about everything right now, 50-50, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to talk about what the American people want, unless it's prefaced by what the American people want is for us to talk to one another, to sit down in the same room and work through issues, to compromise and come up with practical solutions that can be implemented and stand the test of time, then I don't buy the argument.
Well, maybe if we all took some ownership in our countries, that would change. That would change.
It would be nice. I think
Yes.
we're long overdue.
Hmm. There's this concept of baking and cooking. Baking and cooking, they seem to be or appear to be the same. They're both done in the kitchen. Yet baking is kind of like science to me, anyways. You got to put the exact right ingredients in, then you bake it, then you see, how was that? Where cooking, you can kind of wing it along the way. Oh, let's add a little bit of this. We need a little bit more of that. Let's put this and put that in. Um, what has been your life? Has it been around the baking concept or the cooking concept where you've been kind of just as it comes, I'll figure it out? Or did you have a calculated way of where you're going and where you want to be?
Yeah, the question is all the more interesting because I've got two sons who are chefs, one of which is quite well known, and a daughter-in-law who's a baker.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay. So this is a pretty clear question.
yeah. So I'm going to discourage them from listening to this podcast because any analogy I'll probably get wrong. Um, this goes back to our earlier conversation about having some kind of a vision, right? And if we use the cooking analogy, whether you're cooking or you're baking, if you don't know that you want to end up with chicken parm or baked Alaska or whatever else, all you're doing is playing for little purpose, right? And maybe it's fun, you test some different stuff. That's okay. But if you don't have some idea that, okay, I'm going to cook for 4 people, let's start with that. And therefore I need an appetizer, I need a wine pairing, I need an entree, I need a dessert. If you don't start with that and kind of back up from there, you don't have purpose around what it is you're trying to do, right? And for me, I'm a little bit weird. I will tell you, it goes back to junior high. And in junior high, I knew, I was going to say, I don't know that I knew anything, but I felt that I wanted to do a few things. I wanted to work on Wall Street, notwithstanding the fact that at the time I probably really didn't understand or know what that really was. Probably thought it meant being a stockbroker. I wanted to play D1 college football, and I wanted to be CEO of a publicly traded company. Now that's at 12 years old, and it's in part
Wow.
because I had an instructor who was teaching us things like finance and economics and stuff like that I really liked. So I was able to do all of those things, not because I put a plan together to accomplish them,
Mhm.
but going back to my earlier story about being open to life's experiences, when crossroads presented themselves, it was easier for me to say, okay, well, this kind of leads me in this direction or closer to it, and therefore I have a different thought process around it. So I don't know that I've done a great job of answering your question, apart from, it's all a combination of cooking and baking, I guess. But for me, it always starts with, okay, what's the objective?
Right.
And within that context, you can do a lot of things and take a lot of different paths to get there. And I will tell you, even when I'm making presentations or even giving speeches and the like, a lot of people will say, hey, look, here's a 20-page deck as an example, page through the deck, whatever. I give people the answer first. I start with the conclusion. One, it stops people from searching through the pages or stops their mind wandering while you're talking about wondering where you're going to go and where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
So if I was delivering a presentation, Randy, I would give you the answer first. This is the conclusion. And then I'll go back and reinforce that for however long the presentation is in terms of developing the framework that leads to that. But it starts with then, where are we going? So I've already given you the destination. And I think it just makes, for me, is kind of a life process, it's added clarity along the way. Not that everything has worked out along the way. There's certainly been some stumbles, but even the stumbles have been directionally correct, even if it didn't work out.
At a young age, 12, you already knew or had a good idea of where you're heading. And so a question I often ask is, do you know your gifts? And when did you know your gifts? And here you are at 12 already saying, this is what I'm going to do. This is where I'm going to go. Pretty incredible when I think of that. I had no idea at 12 what I was going to be or what I was going to do. So I really appreciate how you put that. And I would say you're more of a baker at that point because you're putting this all into place already and out on the road to make that work. So fantastic. What do you see to this?
It's good to be standing in the right place at the right time when lightning strikes on occasion. So,
well, yeah, and being in the right room with the right people at the right time. I guess that's really what happens. And so you've put yourself in the right rooms with the right people along the way, and good things happen. And that's the
well, and I think that's great advice for young people. And to some degree, it's becoming something of a lost art, right? In this digital world where people interface physically less frequently than in the past, who do not know or aren't as adept at handling conflict, which is a natural part of life, certainly a natural part of business, there is a missed opportunity, right, in not having that skill set, right? So that, and the point I'm trying to make is that from a networking standpoint, then it's becoming something of a less lost art, putting yourself in the room with the right people, aligning yourself in ways that you can learn. And let me tell you a couple of quick stories if we have time that maybe illustrate that a bit. One of the best hires I've ever made. Went in and to run this firm. It was a boutique investment bank, and we had an analyst position that was opening up. And I'd asked a couple of the guys to put together a process, and so they were going to send out the same normal job description, right? I said, "Whoa, time out. Why aren't we starting with, do we even need the job? And if we do, what does that job need to look like? And let's just start a discipline that reevaluates this, anytime something comes up." Anyway, so they over-engineered a process. And long story short, after going out to universities and ads and that kind of thing, and lots of telephone interviews, we selected 6 people to come in, 3 on successive days, to come in to spend a little time with their competition to judge their ability to handle the stress, what their social skills might be. Ask them to do a couple of things in addition to the one-on-one interviews through the day and stuff like that, right? We were going to have a financial analysis for them, which was frankly really, really hard. I didn't do it because I was afraid I might not get better than about a 75% on it, but it was really hard. But these kids, and it was a combination of kids coming out of school with graduate degrees, people with 1 or 2 years real world experience at analysts and major firms and the like. And the other thing we were going to have them do is to make a presentation about a particular industry that at the time was relatively nascent. I think there was only one publicly traded company in the space at the time. And we were going to give them, they couldn't come with anything, right? We told them, we're going to ask you a question about this industry, but we didn't tell them what the question was. We were going to give them then 45 minutes to prepare a presentation. And so a couple of them just whiffed. A couple of them hit singles. One person actually did not a bad job, but it was less about what they knew than they just had incredible ability to articulate and present. They were a great actor. This one guy just hit the cover off the ball. It may still be running for all I know. And I said at the end of this, so okay, so who do you know in this industry that you're able to get all of this information? Because, well, I don't know anybody, but I found a couple of reports. I called and pled poor college student. So I got these $1,500 reports for free. And then I called every CEO, every research analyst, every reporter, everybody that was quoted, mentioned, or anything else, surprisingly, about half the people gave him airtime. And he was able to pick their brains. So here, this was a kid who had drive, who wasn't afraid to tackle something new, who had a skill set that allowed him to sell himself to these people. And he just did an extraordinary job of over delivering and understanding what the task was. And, you know, I don't see that a lot in young people today.
Yeah, great point. You can say, why not me? Or why not me?
Right.
And I see that far too often. So I guess my question is then, why you, Randall? Why you? What came along that made you the opportunity or gave you the opportunity? I mean, I often ask myself that as well. Why not me? And people ask, well, why you? So
You
is
know,
there
I'm afraid to ask
something?
myself that question because the answer might be, oops, there was a mistake somewhere along the way, and it really shouldn't have been you. Um,
Well, I think success leaves clues.
yeah, it's an interesting question, and one I think you could spend, many a late night talking about, right? And I don't know that I have a great answer other than knowing along the way that I was building a set of experiences that I felt were going to make me better at everything I did, whether they were good experiences, bad experiences, troubling, or I got accolades for. It didn't much matter in the context of I'm in this place in my life now where someone asked me recently, all the stuff you've done. You've been, on all sides of the deal table. You've acted. You've done all the stuff. You've, whatever. What was the most fun?
Hmm.
The most fun is what I do now, because I can take all of those experiences and I can work with small companies, large companies, boards, CEOs, whatever, to help add value to what it is they're trying to do. So for me, maybe the why me, it's because the fun of this is that I can give something. And again, it's not totally altruistic. I mean, let's just I'm getting paid to do that kind of stuff, right? But that it's the fun of it to me to be part of building something. And you mentioned EXP earlier, which is how we first became acquainted. And I met Glenn Sanford, who's the founder of EXP, going back probably 13 years ago, when EXP in its present form was a long way from existing. And Glenn had a handful of agents working with them at the time. And we had met through another person, and he talked about what his vision was. I probably spent 2 hours telling him that he was freaking nuts. There was no way that was ever going to happen. And he refined that over the years, and we kept in touch. And I came into the company in 2016 as vice chairman. I am vice chairman of the company. I chair the audit committee and the like. And we did that year $20 million ish in revenue, and we're not profitable, and we're on the cusp of maybe not even making it another few weeks. And we have built this extraordinary company that has experienced extraordinary growth, almost $5 billion in revenue in 2022. We are the largest market cap in our peer group. We are the only ones in our peer group without any debt. We have a versatile business model that doesn't saddle us with high infrastructure costs like buildings and that kind of thing. We're the only one of our peer group in Q1, for example, of 2023 that reported positive earnings. And it's been remarkable to be part of such a high growth situation where we've seen where we've had to bring in a lot of people, where we've had to, define and redefine what we were trying to achieve along the way, all while trying to maintain this very high growth rate, right? So there were challenges every day. That's fun. And if we'd achieved half of it, it would still be fun. So those are the kinds of things I like to do, and the kind of companies I work with in terms of trying to help create value around it.
Well, thank you so much for being such a positive influence on Glenn. and creating this because I'm an agent owner, a shareholder just like you, and just absolutely love EXP. Um, what is, if I can stay with EXP, is there something that could limit our success from your perspective? And it seems like we're fairly bulletproof at this point, but the moment you think you're bulletproof, you're not. So, is there something that you think that in any business, what
Yeah.
limits businesses from having extraordinary success?
Yeah, I preach this in on every board that I'm on. I've got a day-long board meeting on Thursday with not with EXP, with another company, and the entire day is devoted to what's next. Notwithstanding the fact that we're a holding company, we've got very successful businesses, every one of them, but it's what's next. And I don't believe that any business is ever bulletproof.
Mm-hmm.
Because somebody is, and EXP is a good example, right? We've got an extraordinary model that's outperformed our competition significantly. And while they say imitation is the best form of flattery, it does create competition, right? So you can be insular in your thinking in the context of, well, we've got this fully baked, right? The business model is bulletproof, but the truth of it is, unless you aren't iterating around what comes next, what do the next 3 to 5+ years look like? Who's going to come after us and how? How is the environment going to change macroeconomically or regulatorily or whatever else it might need to be? What do we need to do differently than what it is we do today to ensure that we can continue to lead? So I'm very much a proponent of reevaluating all of your business units on an annual basis for their relevancy in the context of what do we need to do to maintain our position, or what do we need to do to defend against XYZ, who's an up and comer
Mm-hmm.
and has real prospects, or ABC, who has a few $1 billion that they're throwing at something, and how does that impact our business? So for me, it's all about, solve what you have to do day to day to do the business that we're doing, but achieving a broader based vision in the context of remaining relevant for the long term, such that the value you've delivered to your shareholders today is sustainable and can continue to grow, I think is our fiduciary responsibility in terms of the way I view my responsibility as a board member.
And thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that. Hey, well, let's move away from business a little bit. Who is Randall in the quiet? Who are you in the quiet?
Assuming my wife will ever allow me to have quiet, I mean that affectionately. She's always got something going on. She's really, really high energy, and you've met her.
Yes.
And she's great. I'm not afraid of quiet. I like quiet. For me, it's an opportunity to recalibrate. My best hours are when I wake up, the early, I wake up at 5:30. So the first few hours of the day that aren't encumbered by phone calls or whatever are my best thinking time. And so I really do value that. I learned a long time ago that best for me is to try to compartmentalize to a degree that I could go to bed. Try to do the right thing the right way for the right reason, so you can look yourself in the mirror, helps, right? But sleep is important. Exercise is important. Maintaining your health physically, intellectually, and that sort of thing. So for me, I enjoy our family time, enjoy travel. Business is never far away because you always have something that you have to do. But I think that balance in life, creating balance and maintaining balance in your life, makes you better at all of those things. And getting so bogged down with any one thing that you can't see outside of that box, I think sooner or later kind of wrecks your vision, wrecks your view. You become less effective, and it gives you less to draw upon. So quiet time for me is regaining and retaining and building, a broad perspective. Do the fun things I like to do, play golf or run, hang out with, my family, whatever else it might be. Anyway, that's what downtime looks for me.
Awesome stuff. Let's close out with a little bit of a speed round.
Oh no.
Little speed round. we'll keep it pretty vanilla. But you've got an opportunity to go out for a fine meal with your wife, takeout, or a dinner in the Hamptons on the beach in your home.
Dinner Hamptons and the beach at our home.
Awesome. I need an invite.
Preferably with friends and family and everybody included. But when you talk about, the kind of quiet time and downtime and whether it's socially or business, I mean, we're out a lot and we go to great places. And I've got, as I said, kids who are chefs, and that provides access in and of itself. I mean, I love.
Doesn't get any better than that,
home and throw it on the barbecue and.
Yeah, just arrived home from being in San Antonio, as I said, and I just love. We have a view. We're on the ocean here in the Pacific, and I just love sitting on the deck and just taking it in and the quietness of that. And it's amazing how 2-3 hours just disappears.
Yeah,
in that moment. It's pretty magical.
It's like staring into a fireplace or a fish tank in terms of, it can all kind of, dissolve around you.
Right on. Favorite band?
Oh, geez. Boy, that's a great question. Because I have such diverse interests. I would say my favorite band goes right back to the Beatles, because so much even of what you hear today is extracted from some of the things that they did.
So true.
And it stood the test of time.
Yeah. Audible or book? Book. Why book?
I like, and I'm as digital as anybody else with phones and iPads and computers and whatever the case. I like the feel of a book in my hands, spending the time with it. I read a lot when I was a kid. I've continued to read a lot. That for me, that's just it's a great way to relax. I don't like the feeling of listening to a book when I'm driving, for example. I'd rather listen to music while I'm driving or be on the phone and work, whatever, right? But if I've got a book in my hands, that's downtime.
Favorite thing you like to do? Let your hair down. What do you do?
I like being on the golf course. Is what I like to do. Whether it's for pleasure or for business, you've got a captive audience. You're out there for 3.5 or 4 hours on the course and a lunch or whatever that is, and it's relaxing. I don't let my hair down much, so it's not a great question to ask of me, as my wife would tell you. She might not use the boring word, but I'm not going to be the life of the party. But I like playing golf.
So if we're talking golf, would you rather go out with 3 individuals that or just end up being the 4th in a group?
Oh, I like them both. I think one of the great things about a sport like golf, and it's not limited to that, is, and we'll do this when we might travel to some place where it's a golf course, and my wife likes to sleep in a little bit. I'll get up and go and latch on to somebody else and meet 3 people I've never met before, and I like that. That's fun.
Yeah, I've met some of the most interesting people just walking onto a golf course and just saying, I'm a single, and okay, you're going to be with these 3, and some of the most interesting people.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, you see and you hear some interesting things sometimes, but I think it's great.
Yeah. Last question, trick question. If you were a scratch and sniff sticker, Randall, a scratch and sniff sticker, what would you be?
Oh my God.
Would it be a bag of money? Would it be for me, I'll give you a little bit of time to think on it because it's a bit of a trick question. I love being at the beach. My wife, Jolie, and I, we're beach people. I kite surf, as you know. So for me, it's a pina colada with sea breeze.
I like that. And I guess my answer is not altogether that dissimilar, but it would be something fresh like the sea, the beach, that is soothing and relaxing. So it's probably that salt air.
Yes.
That you feel around the beach.
That's awesome. Great answer. Well, Randall, thank you so much for being a great guest here on Return on Life podcast. So many great takeaways. Love the leadership piece. So again, thank you for joining me. And I'm sure our listeners are going to just really, really appreciate this segment of Return on Life. Thank you, Randall.
Randy, thank you. I appreciate being invited. Take care.
Thank you.